Hello, and welcome to the BYU Family History Library webinar series. We're glad that you could join us today. I'm Marin, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Please make sure that your microphones and web cameras are disabled during the presentation to provide a smooth webinar. During the webinar, if you have any technical difficulties, please use the chat box, and I can address your concerns. You're welcome to use the chat box during the webinar for comments and insights. However, all questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. Our upcoming webinars are on October 17th and October 24th. We'll be hearing from Sarah Stoddard on the 17th, Thursday, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Sarah will be giving a presentation on DNA. That'll be a follow-up from her previous DNA webinar. On the 24th, we'll hear from James Tanner, and he'll be giving a presentation titled Update on the Rules of Genealogy. And then to end the month, we will have a webinar with Matthew Tyler. That webinar on Chinese genealogy has changed from the 31st to I believe the next Tuesday. I will update that. So if you're wondering what time that Chinese genealogy webinar will be at, it will be on our website, the time for that. A recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube page and on our website in case you would like to share it. If you would like to access a previous webinar, you always can visit our website or visit our YouTube channel. You can find all of the previous webinars on those two sites. We also post links of those videos and other updates on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. For today's webinar, we'll be hearing from Ada Nelson, and her presentation is Online Resources for Hispanic Research. And if Ada is ready, I will just turn the time to her and she can get her presentation set up.
Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos. This is a webinar on online resources for Hispanic research, which is really a vast topic to cover in 1 hour. So what I have done here is I have selected a few choice examples because there isn't enough time to cover the entire Hispanic research arena. Why would you want to attend this class? Well, I hope that it's for the right reasons. We hope that you can learn methodology for researching genealogy in Hispanic America, that you learn about valuable online resources that are both inside and outside of FamilySearch, and that you will feel encouraged and motivated to lengthen your stride, explore new areas, discover more family, and connect with them. By the way, this methodology is also applicable to European and US research or just about any type of genealogy research. During this presentation, I will cover information about records, databases, learning tools, webinars, archives, virtual libraries, books, and social media. And this will be followed at the end by a live demo. So I will show you some examples of what I had been discussing. The most important records for Hispanic America are church and government records. Church records were acquired by FamilySearch in the mid-60s, 70s, and government records have been a more recent with ongoing agreements and new additions. So FamilySearch has made agreements with governments to help preserve these records from destruction, natural disasters, fires, etc. So many governments have been very helpful, and as a result, FamilySearch continues to get a great deal of government records, mainly civil registration records from Hispanic countries. And they still continue to get other records as well, but these are the primary records. So among the church records are the Catholic parish records. Hispanic countries are traditionally Catholic countries, and um, all of the main life events, such as birth, marriages, deaths, were recorded by the priests in sacramental books that later were scanned or microfilmed by FamilySearch. So these records, for instance, reside primarily in the parish, which is the smallest unit of the Catholic Church. But because the parish belongs to a diocese or an archdiocese, these records were also, copies of them were made and kept in a centralized location as copies. So many times when you search for these records, you will actually find two copies, the original that happened close to the event or at the time of the event, and then the copy that was made many years later. The types of records that you can find here are indices to baptisms, marriages, etc. The baptisms themselves, confirmations, marriage bans, which was an announcement that the marriage was going to take place, which is traditionally done about a month before the marriage to make sure that there was no impediment or that no one objected for some reason to the marriage, and then deaths and burials. The government records, as I mentioned before, these are being shared by governments of different countries. We have the civil registration records, which are births, marriages, and deaths. We have also notarial records, or primarily um, wills and things that had to be notarized. Court records, census, which are very limited for Latin America. We have just a handful of countries that have published censuses. So that is not a rich source of information for us as it is for the United States. But back in the earlier part during the colonization by the Spaniards, they did carry on a type of census they called padrones, and those were done and recorded, and many have been digitized and are available online, many of them through FamilySearch or other venues. And some of them have been indexed, but I think mainly they have been just digitized. And then the military records. FamilySearch added this feature about a year ago, or maybe a little bit more than a year ago. And what this feature does is that you can go on the search for records. So you would click on the search um, menu, and then you would choose records. And when you see the map, you click on a section of the map, say South America, and up will pop a list of all the countries in South America. You choose one country, for instance, Chile is the one chosen here, and then you will be taken to this Chile research page, which is sort of a dashboard for getting access to the holdings of FamilySearch. For instance, on the left, you will see learning courses that are available, like webinars that are recorded. You will see on the right a way to quickly start searching in the Chile records. If you were to scroll down, you will see a count of how many records have been indexed, how many records are available for Chile, and then if you keep scrolling down, you will see catalog, the books that are available, and you can quickly go from there directly. If you have used the catalog in the past, you know that it is a little cumbersome to have to, you first have to find the location and then dig down until you find the book or the source that you want. This is a quick way to access this. FamilySearch also has the FamilySearch Wiki. And this research wiki is set up in such a way that every country gets its own page. And when you come to the country, and here I'm showing Argentina, you will see aids that are available to research. Some of these links go into FamilySearch holdings, but some of them are actually outside links. So it just depends, and they have a way to get you started on your genealogy in that particular country. So it's very helpful. There are two versions. There is the English version of the wiki and the Spanish version. They're maintained by different people, organizations, and they do not have the same content. So one of them is not a translation of the other. So if um, you probably would benefit from exploring both language versions. Okay, databases. Um, a famous mathematician, John Allen Powell, said, data, data everywhere, but not a thought to think. And truly, too much data can be mind-numbing and misleading. So choosing the right data for your needs is very essential, especially in genealogy. And I'm going to show you a few of the most important genealogy databases, commercial and otherwise, that are out there. The first one, in terms of Hispanic research, the most important one would be FamilySearch Family Tree. And the reason I say this is because FamilySearch Family Tree has millions of users. They have put their family trees up there. And you can explore this information once you get an account on FamilySearch. So this is not available unless you have an account. But then once you do, you can post your own information or you can search for the information other people have put up here. Um, GeniaNet that I have as number 2. By the way, the categories here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are really arbitrary because what is the database that is most important to you is the one that contains the information that you are looking for, that your family, where your family appears. And it could be any of these or none of these. So the order of important, the order is really very subjective. But GeniaNet is based in France. They are a relatively low cost um, database. The reason I put it here is because professional genealogists in Latin America have used this database to store their trees. Some of them are very immense trees. And so this is a genuine resource for Hispanic research. The third one, MyHeritage, is is a database genealogy company that's based in Israel. And they also have a subscription fee, but they have done a lot of marketing in Latin America and they have been able to acquire or a lot of users. It is free to upload your information in MyHeritage, and these people have put a lot of information. So there's a lot of trees that are for Hispanic communities. So this is a great resource. Jenny is owned by MyHeritage. It was acquired a few years later, and it has been maintained as a single tree. So as opposed to GeniaNet, MyHeritage, and Ancestry, which have personal trees, Jenny only has one tree. And there is a subscription, but a lot you can do a lot in Jenny, search, etc. for free. And finally, Ancestry, which is the largest and most and has the most not just the most users but also the most resources for Hispanics. Primarily it is important for Mexican or people researching in Mexico because Ancestry is a partner with FamilySearch, and that partnership, part of that partnership made it possible for Ancestry to index independently the Mexican uh, records that FamilySearch has. And so Ancestry has been able to make this happen very quickly, but it doesn't refresh the holdings in FamilySearch um, immediately. So Ancestry may have more records indexed than FamilySearch. So I recommend anyone doing research in Mexico to always go here. GeniaNet, MyHeritage, and Ancestry are partners with FamilySearch, which means that the historical records that they have available, such as baptisms, confirmations, marriages, deaths, civil records that you see here are really the ones that are in FamilySearch. So you're not seeing very much different, with some exceptions, and I will show you later. This is pretty much the same information. However, the trees are unique to each database. So there are some users that have their trees in MyHeritage, but not in FamilySearch, or they may have them in Ancestry, but not in FamilySearch. So this is one reason these are important to research for Hispanics. And I mentioned MyHeritage. Here you will see a list of large number of countries and Caribbean islands that have records. And on the right-hand side, you see which records are available for these countries. Um, and you can see here as the third item, Venezuela voter list. This is an example of an archive that MyHeritage has that FamilySearch does not have, or Ancestry. This is unique to MyHeritage. And so there will be a few of these. You would have to just explore your own country to see what records may be only available in MyHeritage. And as I mentioned before, Ancestry is doing a lot with indexing and making these records accessible. Here's a 1930 Mexico National Census, which is one of the few censuses that are available for Latin American countries. And 1930 Mexico census is very important. But again, FamilySearch also has this census indexed. Learning aids. So when you embark on this journey of finding your ancestors, it is truly a journey, and you are a pioneer. Perhaps you are the pioneer in your family and trying to find these records. But the truth is that you're forging new trails. And I had to do a lot of finding new trails when I started my research. Fortunately, there have been a lot of learning aids that have become available recently on the internet. And here I'm going to explore some of them. Some of the learning resources for Hispanic research include tutorials, guides, webinars like the one we're having today. There are digital archives and digital libraries. There are a ton of immigration databases, including one that BYU hosts that I'll talk about later, and ethnic resources, heraldry, which deals with the nobility. So there's a ton of them, and this class can cover all of them, but I will show you later a place where you can actually go and see a list of resources that are available in the FamilySearch Wiki. The FamilySearch Wiki also has these research outlines or research guides that were actually published in the library many years ago, back in the 70s or 80s maybe, but 70s for sure. BYU now hosts these and has the collection. And were you to click here on Latin America, you would see all the countries, and each country has one for itself. These list like physical addresses of government offices and parish church addresses, what type of records, what time frame these records were produced in, where are these records stored today. These, of course, because they were done in the 70s, have no internet resources that you can see, but it's a great guide for you to understand where the records exist, and perhaps if you have way to access them, maybe through travel or some other way, that you will know exactly what's covered. And there are many also Hispanic resources that are blogs or that are in Spanish. Here is one, a blog de Genealogía Hispana, which is based in Spain, and is a wonderful resource to provide all kinds of learning aids, tutorials, all kinds of advice, blogs. Is excellent, and you can render this into English. using the Google Translate. So I wouldn't hesitate to go here and do some digging around. Okay, so we are having a webinar right now, and it has been said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video must be worth 1,000 pictures, right? Um, but a recorded webinar that you can access as often as you need is even better. And so not only having a webinar is great because you get to see or hear a class that without traveling to the location, but you actually will eventually this will be recorded and archived, and then you will be able to access it later. Um, among all the producers of webinars, and there's quite a few, this is a very popular method of instruction. Really, the largest collection of webinars for Hispanics is in FamilySearch. The classes are both in Spanish and in English, but primarily in Spanish. And in Spanish alone, there's close to 80 webinars that have been recorded and uploaded to FamilySearch. So this page that you're seeing here is a wiki page that I created some time ago because it was difficult to find where these classes were, what they covered. And with 80 classes, they were organized by time only. So I organized them I categorized them. And so here's the categories that you see. Maybe they are somewhat arbitrary, but at least it gives you an idea of what types of webinars they have. Methodology, how to do research, the records, and then location related like Latin America, Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean, South America. So those are specific to specific regions of the world. Then migration, tools that are genealogical tools, family search, how to use family search for different things, and even some advice on sharing genealogy with children. As part of my efforts during the last few years, I have started a series of webinars called Genealogy Resources for, and you can see the list here of the countries that I have covered. More recently, I covered also the Spanish migration to the America, which was done in two parts. And these last two, Central America and online Hispanic research is the one that I'm doing now, which I'm going to do again in November at a different venue. And Central America is also going to be done about the same time. And where is this going to happen? Well, FamilySearch has a Latin America research seminar that they have done every year for the last few years. And it lasts the whole week. And they invite genealogists and staff members to participate and make presentations, mostly in Spanish, with some in English. And the one that is coming up is at the end of this month, October 29th to November 2nd, at the Family History Library. There's also Roots Tech that happens once a year, also in the Salt Lake Convention Center in downtown Salt Lake City. And next year it will be in February, end of February. That usually has a few classes in Spanish or about Hispanic research, but not a whole lot. However, if you're taking advantage of attending this, you should seek out the Hispanic classes that they will be presenting. And then there are a couple of others that are more, there's one in Texas that happens every year in Dallas. It's quite large and it attracts Hispanics from all the region of Texas, which was one of the largest segments population, and as well as a population of Hispanics that immigrated or that actually resided in the Americas before it was still part of Spain. And the Jamboree in Los Angeles, they're not going to have one next year. They are planning to have the next one in 2021, but that also has a lot of helps for Hispanic research. And so the one that is going to be done here in the Family History Library is going to be broadcast, and you can access the link and you can sign up or log into the classes as they happen. The schedule hasn't been posted yet, but should be posted very soon. They start at 9:30 and end at 4 Mountain Standard Time. And you can also attend in person in the main floor of the Family History Library, Classroom B. This seminar is going to have 3 tracks. The Spanish track, which will be the entire week. And then on Friday, they're going to have an English track that is basically concurrent with the Spanish track, only on Friday. And on Saturday, we'll have a Portuguese track concurrent with the Spanish track. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of a local resource for those of you who live nearby. Archives. Um, a lot of times when I've been researching, I think of myself as being Indiana Jones because I am uncovering things that many of my family never heard of, my friends never heard of. And so there are treasures really to be uncovered. And so here I'm showing a picture of the Archivo General de la Nación in Bogotá, Colombia. So this is the main Colombian archive. This is a really important archive. And until recently, I thought that I would have to travel to Colombia to research this. But to my great surprise, I found that it had they have actually put a lot of the collections online. And these collections go back to the beginning of the Spanish colonization. So Colombia was one of the big centers of colonization in South America. Panama actually was under the jurisdiction of this in the same area. And so many documents from the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s have been digitized, indexed, and available through their portal, through their archives portal. It's truly a find. Um, then we have other archives. The Internet Archive is not really a governmental archive, but it is an archive of books, of important books that the aim of this organization is to scan and archive as many of the important books as they can for preservation. And they have, in the process, have done a lot of scanning of important books, history books, and genealogical books for Hispanic research as well. They also have a Wayback Machine, which is a way to time travel back into the past. If you have seen a website, many times this happens in Latin America, their website goes up and disappears after a few years, and then you unfortunately can't get the data anymore. Well, the Wayback Machine is basically like a screenshot in time of the website over time, and you could go and research those um, specific uh, times that they took the snapshot and get the data. And I recently did that with some information that I had researched. The database had gone down. I went there, found it, was able to find the owner of the information, contacted her, and now this is a great resource for me in my research. I already mentioned the digital archives in Colombia. There's the National Archives, the United States National Archives, or NARA, that have put a lot of information online um, and that you can search. And we're talking things like naturalization records and so forth. There's Parrish, which is the portal to Spanish archives. And then, and Parrish is important because um, Spain kept really good records of everybody who went from Spain to America. And they even required genealogies of many of the people who came over because they wanted to make sure that they were desirable immigrants to America. And so, these Paris is amazing, and you can search for yourself. A lot of the holdings for the colonization of Spain are stored here, and there are several learning aids that will help you to to figure out how to use this portal. And then the archive grid, this is something that is associated with the library, the OCLC. Um, it gives you a portal to archives. Now, you may find that the portals are not as good for usage. I tried a few and I wasn't sure how useful they were, but I was able to get the name of the archive. And that's the important thing. Once you have the name of the archive, you can just go and search Google for that archive and then find the main page and the website, and then you're there and you can access directly the data. So give it a try. Mexico has 10 of them. And for archives, we're talking about university libraries, we're talking about national archives, etc. This is an ongoing project, and so they plan to have more and more over time. Okay, an example of the Internet Archive here is a book that is very desirable for those people researching the migration from Spain to America in the centuries 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. Um, there is several volumes of this. It's very hard to find them digitized, and apparently the Internet Archive has digitized at least one of these volumes. This is a really good resource. This is NARA. They have a Hispanic Latino heritage page, and then information about the records that they have. Okay, so I mentioned a few things about virtual libraries. Virtual libraries is like you were able to step across space into another location that was far away. For instance, many Latin America, of course, is far away from here. So if you're in the United States trying to research and you think, "Oh, I'm going to have to get on a plane and go find this information in a library there," it would surprise you to know that many, in fact, all the countries that I have researched, and I expect all the countries that I will research in Latin America, have at least one virtual library. Usually that is the national library for the country, but every university, large university within that country also has virtual libraries. And so these are wonderful resources. They have digital magazine collections that go back 20, 30 years ago, and they are topics, are historic topics. They have collections of books that have been digitized. It's just an amazing treasure. Um, so you can explore these for every country has their own. So these ones that I'm putting here are more global, right? These are not country specific. I did put an example. This is the Panamanian Digital Library, and here this is the Catholic University in Peru that has a virtual library. But other sources here include um, the National Library of Spain. This is one of the best research tools. You can find books, articles that go back to the 1800s, 1700s. I mean, this is a marvelous resource. It's all digitized and articles you can download. I've done research on behalf of other people and found many things that were important for their family history. The Library of Congress has a Hispanic reading room. We're going to talk about that a little later. The WorldCat is a worldwide library catalog. And if you are trying to find a book and find which library has it, especially in the United States, this will tell you which libraries have it. HathiTrust and JSTOR are research databases that are primarily used by large institutions like universities. Um, and but if you are affiliated with a university, these can be a great resource. I have found many important documents in HathiTrust, even books that have been digitized. JSTOR similarly. Um, in JSTOR, you can actually get free access to 6 articles every month. Now you're not allowed to download it unless you have a subscription, but you can read it online. The BYU Library Catalog is another wonderful place. It's hard to find genealogical material that you can borrow from a library, but the BYU Library has a large selection of Hispanic genealogy material that is in the sociology division. So this is not reference material. What that means is that you can actually get these books. You could check them out if you live locally, and then, or you can use something called interlibrary loan. We're going to discuss that a little later. Here's a screenshot of the National Library of Spain. It does have a English version, but only for the main page, main screens. The collection articles themselves are in Spanish. This is another important library in Latin America, Biblioteca Digital del Patrimonio Iberoamericano. This is it's a digital library of the Spanish American legacy or heritage. And you can see in the bottom, these are the libraries that are participating. There's Mexico, Peru, Chile, and there's many more that are being added all the time. So this will change with time with more participation. And so these are all collaborating digitally with each other through this portal. And just to give you an example for Colombia, I found in the Illinois University Library that they had done some guides for each country, not for each country, but for some countries. And for Colombia, they had listed all of their the digital archives and digital or virtual university sites. It's not complete, but it's actually a pretty good one. Okay, so what good would be a library if you didn't go try to find a book in the library, right? And so you probably will at this point say, well, darn, I don't know the title of the book I want. I know I want books on Hispanic genealogy, but which books and how do I search for a book in a library if I don't know the title? So hopefully this will give you some clue. So what books would you want to see? Well, definitely genealogies. There are genealogies that have been published of different regions or surnames. There are family histories. There are history books. There are maps that illustrate the time period that you're looking for. There are immigration accounts. There are historical magazines, which, and there are, and I didn't add this here, but genealogical magazines, because each genealogical society also publishes a magazine, and you'd be surprised how many actually have put these online in PDF form that you can download. So where do you find the titles for these books, articles, etc.? So one method that I've used in the past is to look in books that I already value as having a lot of information. And then I look in the bibliography. I look for the titles of other books or other articles. I look for footnotes. I Google the book titles, try to see if is there a copy available online. Um, Sometimes people do sharing of PDF books. In different countries, I have found sites that share books that are digital format freely over the internet. You can search WorldCat, as I mentioned before. You can search through the virtual library catalogs now that you have a title to search for. You can search online archives and on and on. And we do need to acknowledge the great contribution of these two individuals, Dr. George Riskamp and Lyman Platt. They were pioneers, have been pioneers in Hispanic genealogy from the beginning, in a time when there were hardly any resources. They wrote some of the first books on the subject, especially Lyman Platt, A Genealogical Historical Guide to Latin America in 1978. I understand that that was his doctoral thesis. that he later published as a book and is really one of the best. Dr. Riskamp published Finding Your Hispanic Roots in 1997. Dr. Riskamp has been associated with BYU. He was a past director of the Family History Library at BYU, and it still continues to be associated with an immigrant ancestor project that I'll show you a little later. And then the Library of Congress also has um, some online resources that are really unique. There is a Hispanic reading room, and there is a Hispanic local history and genealogy guide in the US. So I'll show you an example. Here is the Library of Congress, a page for Hispanic local history and genealogy in the United States. And what you can see here on the right-hand side is a title of topics. So for you to click on one of these, you will see a long, long list of books, of titles. These are books that the Library of Congress holds. Now, the Library of Congress does not allow these books to be borrowed out of the library. You have to go there and research it in person. But once you know the title, then you can take advantage of um, interlibrary loan. And I'll discuss it a little bit more at the end. Finally, social media. You can't do this alone. You need other people to help along. And it really takes a village. And so social media resources, Family Search has put out a research community. Is supersedes something that they had forums in the past. Well, now it's called research community. And one of the best places, ancestry message boards, they have per country, and I'll show you that in a minute. You have Facebook groups, genealogy societies, LinkedIn, even though it's for professionals. Um, many professionals in foreign countries have put their data there, and you can even message them. So this is a great resource. Genealogy databases also have a messaging feature, like Family Search. You can send a message to somebody who's posted something. You can do it in Ancestry. You can do that in any database of the ones that we discussed before. There are blogs, for instance, I'll show you the Caribbean Heritage in a minute, genealogy groups, and DNA groups. And here's an example of the Family Search community. And there is one group here that is specifically for researching Hispanic ancestry that is really good because it's monitored by staff members and very senior genealogists who are very good at answering quickly when someone posts something. Okay, so we come to the live demo. I mentioned that I had organized these, and so I'm just going to quickly go through. This page is a sort of a portal into it, and you get here by just typing the word classes in the Wiki Finder cell. So you just type the word classes, and it will bring you to this page. And then if you click here, the classes in Spanish, you will see all the classes that have been available. These are all links that take you straight to the presentation. You can download the video, and many times there will also be a handout associated with it. You can tell what level it is, and it's a great resource. And Family Search continues to add to this collection every year. So keep looking here frequently. And the other one I want to show you is the tutorials and genealogy guides that I mentioned before. This is a page that I created and I maintain. And if you're interested in updating this list, it'd be great because there's many more. This mentions about 440 or so at this moment, but there could be, you could double this list easily. So for WorldCat search, I put this here. This is a book that is has significance for genealogy in Panama. And I wanted to see which libraries had it. And when I clicked on it, it showed me all these libraries. And I know, therefore, that if I needed to get this book, I can order it through interlibrary loan. And so what I really would be to get this book and have it for a month to research in my own home. So this is one of a great resource. Wanted to show you. So if you were to click on immigration from Spain, you see what I said before, this long list of titles comes up, and these are books, and now you can try and find somewhere else. BYU library catalog. Okay. So what I did here was I did an advanced keyword search, and I type in genealogy as a subject, and then I put another subject here, Hispanic. No, that's too broad. Let's put the name of a country. Let's say Mexico. And then you click search, and it will come up, and it tells you it has 147 books on the topic of genealogy and Mexico. And then you can order these through interlibrary loan if you don't live here. If you're a local, you can just go to BYU and get it. So if you any country you put in here, they cover pretty much all countries. They have several shelves full of genealogy books for Latin America that circulate. And I mentioned this blog before. This is a blog for the Caribbean. This representative of many blogs. This blog has been dedicated entirely to genealogy in the Caribbean. Wonderful resource. And it's always updated and kept up. And finally, the message boards in Ancestry. When you come here, you can go to localities. You go to, let's say, South America. And then you see all the countries. And if were you to open one of these, let's say Argentina, then you would see all the threads and message. You can see that it's used very, very actively by people who live here and overseas. And this is a great place to put a message out. And we come to the end of our journey. And I hope that you've been able to see ways in which you can start your research, where and how to do it, what is available out there to guide you. And I hope that you are now more ready to explore and discover more about your Hispanic ancestors. I have my contact information here if you want to contact me for any reason. And I'm now turning the time over to you for your comments. Questions, please.
You can type your questions in the chat box. I'll read those out and Ada will answer them. All right. We're still going to keep the chat box open in case you have any more questions. It doesn't look like we have any questions per se right now. Just a comment from one of the viewers. He says, no question, just a big thank you for the information. Also, all the links that Ada posted on her slideshow in the webinar, you weren't able to access them. However, there will be a handout, and that will be there will be a link to that handout on the YouTube post with this recording, as well as that handout will be made available on our website with the recording of this video. So if you would like those resources, you can access them at our website or on our YouTube channel. All right, I think that's all the time that we have for questions. But like Ada said, you can contact her at ada3600@gmail.com, and she'll be able to answer those questions. I'll just move over to the closing slide. Our next webinar will be on the 17th. We'll be hearing from Sarah Stoddard, and she'll be presenting on DNA, as well as the 24th will be with James Tanner, and he'll be giving a presentation on the rules of genealogy, an update on those rules. The webinar that was scheduled for the 31st has been moved. That'll be on Tuesday the 5th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. That'll be an introduction to Chinese genealogy with Matthew Tyler. I apologize for that schedule change, but I will have that updated on our website so that there isn't any confusion. The recording for this webinar will be made available next week along with the handout. You can access that on our YouTube page and on our website. If you have any comments or questions, you're welcome to email me at fhl_webinars@byu.edu. Thank you so much, and we hope that you have a wonderful weekend.